In the quiet village of Koma, nestled between tall hills and thick forest, a mysterious wind blew every night. It wasn't like any other wind. This wind carried a melody, soft and eerie, like a song only the night could sing. 10-year-old Simi lay on her mat, wide-eyed, listening. It called to her, tugging at something deep inside her heart. Who sings such a lonely song? She wondered aloud, her voice barely a whisper. Her curiosity grew each night, and though the villagers warned her not to follow the wind, something inside her said she must. One night, Simi could no longer resist. She rose from her mat, her bare feet brushing against the cool earth. The wind's song grew louder, almost as if it knew she was coming. "Simi, don't," her mother had said the day before, but the pull was too strong. Wrapped in her thin shawl, she stepped out into the night, following the wind's call. It led her beyond the village boundaries, past the tall trees, and toward the thickest part of the forest. Her heart pounded as she entered the dark woods. Every snap of a twig made her jump, but she pressed on. The wind's song was clearer now, guiding her deeper and deeper into the unknown. Simi knew she should be afraid, but she wasn't. Something about the melody felt familiar, almost as if it was meant for her. She had no idea this journey would change her life forever. Simi had always heard tales of the deep forest, tales of spirits and creatures that roamed in the dark. But she had never been brave enough to venture so far. Tonight was different. The wind guided her as if showing her the way. Why me? She thought. Why now? The trees loomed over her, their branches stretching like long, bony fingers. But the melody was all she could focus on. It wrapped around her like a warm embrace, making her forget the fear she should have felt. As she pushed further, the air around her grew colder. The wind's song became louder, more insistent. Then, without warning, the path ahead split into two. Simi hesitated. To the left, the path was narrow and overgrown with vines. To the right, it was wide and clear, almost as if it had been waiting for her arrival. The wind tugged toward the narrow path. Why the harder way? She asked aloud. But deep down, she knew the answer: nothing worth finding was ever easy. Taking a deep breath, she chose the narrow path. Her feet moved cautiously, but her heart felt lighter. The forest seemed to shift around her, as if she had stepped into another world. The wind's song grew louder and sweeter, pulling her further into the unknown. Simi knew there was no turning back now. The narrow path seemed endless, twisting and turning as if it had no end. Just when Simi thought she might be lost forever, the trees opened up into a wide clearing. Her breath caught in her throat. Before her stood a circle of tall, ancient trees, their branches intertwined like a woven net, forming a canopy overhead. In the center of the clearing, a group of people stood, their faces hidden in the shadows. Simi's heart raced. These were not villagers from Koma, nor were they strangers passing through. Their skin shimmered under the moonlight, and their clothes, woven from leaves and flowers, seemed to glow. One of them stepped forward, a woman with deep, wise eyes. "We have been waiting for you, Simi," she said, her voice as soft as the wind's melody. "Waiting for me?" Simi stammered. She felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The woman nodded, pointing to the sky. "The wind has sung your name for many nights. You are the one chosen to fulfill the prophecy." Simi didn't understand. What prophecy? Why her? But as she looked around, she felt something shift deep within her, as if this was where she was always meant to be. Simi's mind swirled with questions, but the woman before her remained calm. "You are part of an ancient story, one that has been written long before you were born." She led Simi to a small stone altar at the edge of the clearing. On it lay an old scroll, covered in symbols Simi had never seen before. This tells of a child who would come when the wind sings its song, a child who will help us restore balance to the seasons. Simi's hands trembled as she touched the scroll. But I'm just a girl from Koma, she said. The woman smiled gently. That may be, but you are more than you know. The seasons are out of balance, Simi. The rains come too late, the dry season lingers too long. If this continues, the land will wither, and your village, like many others, will not survive. You are the key to saving it. The weight of her words pressed heavily on Simi's shoulders. She wasn't ready for this. How could she, a simple girl, fix the seasons? But deep inside, a flicker of courage sparked. If she didn't help, who would? The tribe needed her, and maybe, just maybe, she was strong enough to fulfill this prophecy. Before Simi could process everything, the woman raised her hand, and the wind around them changed. It no longer sang the soft melody from before. Instead, it howled, wild and fierce, like a storm about to break. The wind is our guide, the woman said, her voice steady. It will test you now. If you pass, you will be ready for the journey ahead. Simi's heart pounded. She had never faced such a test before. The wind swirled around her, lifting her braids and making her shawl flap wildly. It tugged at her, pulling her toward the forest edge. She dug her heels into the ground, determined not to be swept away. Stay strong, the woman's voice echoed in the wind. But it wasn't just the wind that tested her. Shadows flickered in the trees, shapes that moved just out of sight. Strange whispers filled the air, confusing her, trying to make her doubt herself. You can't do this, the voices hissed. You're just a little girl. Simi clenched her fist. I am more than that, she whispered fiercely. I can do this. The wind roared louder, but Simi stood her ground. Her feet, though small, held firm against the storm. The wind seemed to recognize her strength and slowly began to calm. When it finally quieted, the woman smiled. You have passed the first test, Simi. There are many more to come, but I believe in you. After passing the first test, Simi was led to a large fire at the center of the clearing. Around the fire sat the tribe elders, their faces lined with age and wisdom. The flames flickered, casting strange shadows on their faces. The woman who had spoken to Simi now introduced her to the elders. This is Simi, the one chosen by the wind, she said. One elder, an old man with a staff made of twisted wood, leaned forward. You have the courage of a lion, little one. But courage alone will not be enough. He gestured to the fire. The flame you see is the heart of the seasons. Without balance, it grows wild and dangerous, just like the wind. Your task is to restore harmony between the seasons, and for that, you must face 3 challenges. Simi's stomach turned. More challenges. She wasn't sure how much more she could handle. But the elder's eyes were kind, and she felt a sense of calm wash over her. What must I do? She asked, her voice steady despite the fear building in her chest. The elder smiled. First, you must journey to the Lake of Mirrors, where the spirit of the rains waits. There, you will discover the truth about yourself and the power you hold. With a sense of purpose, Simi set off early the next morning. The tribe gave her a small satchel filled with herbs, a flask of water, and a simple wooden staff to aid her on the journey. The Lake of Mirrors lay far beyond the hills, past the borders of her village and deep into unknown lands. As she walked, the wind whispered around her, no longer eerie but encouraging. It reminded her of the melodies her mother used to hum as she prepared meals. I will not fail, Simi whispered to herself, gripping the staff tightly. The path was long, and the sun beat down on her, but she didn't stop. She knew time was running out for the seasons and for her village. By the time the sun began to set, Simi's legs were tired, and her stomach growled with hunger. She found a small clearing by a stream where she could rest. As she sat, nibbling on a piece of bread from her satchel, the wind picked up again, carrying with it the sound of rustling leaves. "You're not alone, Simi," the wind seemed to say. As Simi prepared to sleep, she suddenly felt the presence of someone nearby. Startled, she spun around to see a tall figure standing at the edge of the trees. The figure stepped into the light of the moon, revealing a boy, not much older than her, dressed in simple clothes. His face was familiar, yet she had never seen him before. "Who are you?" Simi asked, gripping her staff tighter. The boy smiled. "My name is Tond. I've been watching you for some time now. You're quite brave to be out here all alone." Simi frowned. "Why are you watching me?" Tond's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Let's just say, I'm interested in your journey. The Lake of Mirrors is not an easy place to reach. You'll need help, whether you like it or not." Simi wasn't sure if she should trust this boy, but something about his calm demeanor made her feel less alone. She nodded cautiously. "All right, you can come. But don't slow me down." Tom chuckled. "I wouldn't dream of it." After days of walking, climbing hills, and crossing rivers, Simi and Tom finally reached the Lake of Mirrors. The lake was unlike anything Simi had ever seen. Its surface was still and smooth, reflecting the sky like a perfect mirror. As they stood at the water's edge, Tom spoke quietly. "This is where the spirit of the rains lives. You must face the truth here, Simi." Simi felt a knot tighten in her chest. She stepped closer to the lake and knelt down, staring into the water. Her reflection stared back at her, but as she looked deeper, the reflection began to change. It wasn't her anymore. The face in the water was older, stronger, with eyes filled with wisdom and power. "Is this me?" she whispered. A soft voice echoed across the water. "This is who you are meant to be, Simi. But you must choose to accept this path." Simi closed her eyes. The weight of the prophecy, the tribe's expectations, her village's survival, it all pressed down on her. But when she opened her eyes, she felt lighter. "I accept it," she said, her voice firm. The lake rippled, and from its depths, a figure emerged, a woman made entirely of water, her form shifting like the waves. "Then, the journey to restore balance has truly begun," the spirit said. "But beware, for the next challenge will test your heart." The spirit of the rains gave Simi a small vial of water. "Take this to the heart of the mountain. Only there can the seasons be brought back into harmony." With that, the spirit disappeared back into the lake, leaving Simi and Tond to continue their journey. The path to the mountain was treacherous. Sharp rocks and steep cliffs made the climb difficult, but Simi was determined. With Tond by her side, they pressed on, despite the dangers. Each step brought them closer to their goal, but it also brought new challenges. As they neared the top, a thick fog rolled in, making it hard to see. Simi's heart raced. "We have to keep going," she said, but the path ahead was unclear. They could hear the wind howling, but it seemed to be warning them now, not guiding them. The fog thickened, and the path became almost impossible to follow. Simi's heart pounded as she glanced at Tond. "How can we find the way if we can't even see it?" Tond, always calm, placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes, Simi, the way forward isn't always visible. You must trust your instincts, just as you trusted the wind to guide you here." Simi took a deep breath and closed her eyes, listening. The wind's song, once soft and mysterious, became clearer in her mind. She followed the sound in her heart, feeling her way through the mist. Slowly, step by step, the fog began to lift, revealing the narrow path ahead. But as the fog cleared, something unexpected blocked their way, a towering rock wall. "We are so close." Simi groaned in frustration. "But how do we get past this?" Ton examined the rock and smiled. Sometimes, Simi, obstacles aren't what they seem. He tapped the wall with his hand, and the sound echoed oddly, hollow. It's a false wall, he said. There's something behind it. Simi's eyes widened. She picked up her staff and struck the wall. The rock cracked, then shattered, revealing a hidden passageway. Let's go, she whispered, a renewed sense of hope in her heart. The hidden passage led them deep into the mountain, where they found a massive cavern. At the center of the cavern was a glowing heart, an enormous crystal pulsing with light. This was the heart of the mountain, the place where all the seasons converged. But something was wrong. The crystal's glow flickered erratically, and the air around it was heavy with imbalance. The wind that had gathered Simi this far now howled with distress. This is it, she whispered. The heart of the seasons. Ton nodded. Now, you must restore harmony. Simi approached the crystal and uncorked the vial of water from the lake of mirrors. As she poured the water onto the crystal, it shimmered brightly, and the wind began to calm. But before the crystal could fully heal, a dark shadow appeared, swirling around it like smoke. From the shadows, a deep voice growled. You think you can restore what has been broken? The balance was destroyed for a reason. Simi stepped back, startled. Who are you? The shadow took form, a towering figure with eyes like burning coals. I am the spirit of chaos, the one who thrives when balance is lost. And I will not allow you to fix it. Simi's heart raced as the spirit of chaos loomed over her. You cannot stop me, it hissed. The seasons will remain broken, and the world will fall into endless disorder. Ton stepped forward, standing by Simi's side. You underestimate her power. She is not just a child. She is the chosen one. Simi felt a surge of courage. She had come too far to turn back now. With Ton's words echoing in her mind, she raised her staff and pointed it at the spirit of chaos. I will restore the balance. The spirit laughed, its voice rumbling like thunder. Foolish child. You will fail. But Simi did not waver. She closed her eyes and remembered the wind's song, the soothing melody that had called her to this journey. She let the music fill her heart, guiding her movements. The crystal began to glow brighter as she focused her energy on it. The spirit of chaos lunged at her, but Ton blocked its path with his own staff. Simi, hurry, he shouted. With one final burst of energy, Simi poured all her strength into the crystal. Light exploded from it, blinding the spirit of chaos. The wind roared, and the season's magic flowed back into harmony. The spirit screamed in rage as it was swallowed by the light, disappearing into nothingness. When the light faded, the cavern was silent. The crystal pulsed gently, its glow steady and calm. Simi collapsed to her knees, exhausted but victorious. Simi and Ton stood before the restored crystal, its light now steady and soothing. The air around them felt lighter, calmer, as if the seasons themselves had begun to breathe easier. The wind that had once howled with despair now hummed a peaceful tune. You did it, Ton said, smiling at Simi. You restored the balance. The spirit laughed, its voice rumbling like thunder. Foolish child. You will fail. But Simi did not waver. She closed her eyes and remembered the wind's song, the soothing melody that had called her to this journey. She let the music fill her heart, guiding her movements. The crystal began to glow brighter as she focused her energy on it. The spirit of chaos lunged at her, but Ton blocked its path with his own staff. Simi, hurry, he shouted. With one final burst of energy, Simi poured all her strength into the crystal. Light exploded from it, blinding the spirit of chaos. The wind roared, and the season's magic flowed back into harmony. The spirit screamed in rage as it was swallowed by the light, disappearing into nothingness. When the light faded, the cavern was silent. The crystal paused gently, its glow steady and calm. Simi collapsed to her knees, exhausted but victorious. Simi and Ton stood before the restored crystal, its light now steady and soothing. The air around them felt lighter, calmer, as if the seasons themselves had begun to breathe easier. The wind that had once howled with despair now hummed a peaceful tune. "You did it," Ton said, smiling at Simi. "You restored the balance." Simi, still catching her breath, nodded. "It wasn't just me. I couldn't have done it without you." As they stood in the cavern, the elders of the hidden tribe appeared, their faces filled with pride and gratitude. "You have saved us all," Simi, the elder with the twisted staff said. "The balance has been restored, and the seasons will now return to their rightful order." The tribe knelt before her, honoring her bravery. Simi felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had begun this journey as a scared girl, but now, she was something more, a protector of the seasons, a hero of her village. The journey back to the village of Koma was long but peaceful. The wind, once filled with an eerie song, now carried a gentle melody of hope. As Simi and Ton walked, they marveled at the changes around them. The trees were greener, the air was fresher, and the balance between the seasons had been restored. When they arrived at Koma, the villagers were waiting, their faces filled with joy and relief. Simi's mother rushed forward, tears streaming down her face as she embraced her daughter. "You did it, Simi. You saved us." Simi smiled, feeling the warmth of her mother's embrace. "I had help," she said, glancing at Ton, who nodded in agreement. The village celebrated Simi's return, and though the wind still whispered through the trees, it no longer carried an eerie tune. Instead, it sang of new beginnings, of balance and harmony. Thank you so much for joining us on Simi's incredible journey in the Song of the Night Wind. What did you think about her brave quest to restore balance to the seasons? We hope this story has taught you that even the smallest among us can change the world if they have the courage to follow their hearts. Did you enjoy this adventure? If so, don't forget to like this video and leave a comment sharing your favorite parts or the lessons you learned. Also, please share this story with your friends and family so they can experience the magic too. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel and follow us for more incredible stories like this. Stay tuned for our next exciting tale, and until then, always remember to listen to the wind, it might be calling you to your own adventure. Bye for now.